Shocking! Max Verstappen to leave F1. Two-time F1 world champion Max Verstappen has just warned he might quit Formula One. Why? Stay tuned to find out. Speaking ahead of the Australian Grand Prix, Verstappen doubled down on his long-standing criticism of sprint races, and the Dutchman said proposals to jazz up the race weekend still further, with qualifying taking place on Friday for the main Grand Prix on Sunday, and then a separate qualifying session on Saturday morning for a standalone sprint race later that same day. We're not the DNA of Formula One. Verstappen said, "I hope there won't be too many changes, otherwise I won't be around for too long. I am not a fan of the proposals at all. When we do all that kind of stuff, the weekend becomes very intense, and we already do a lot of races. It's not the right way to go about it. I understand they want to make every day exciting, but they should reduce the weekend and only race on Saturday and Sunday and make those 2 days exciting. We are heading into seasons where we could have 24 to 25 races, and if you then start adding more, it's not worth it for me. I will not enjoy that. A sprint race is all about surviving and not racing. There's nothing to risk when you have a fast car. I prefer to keep my car alive and make sure you have a good race car for Sunday, even if you change the format. I don't find it is the DNA of Formula One to do these kinds of sprint races. F1 is about getting the most out of it in qualifying, and then having an amazing Sunday over a long race distance. That is the DNA of the sport, and I don't understand why we need to change that." Verstappen added that rather than tweaking the format of the race weekend, the sport's focus should be on closing up the field. How do you get even more action? Get the cars closer and having more teams fighting for the wins. The show would then be great if we had 6 or 7 teams fighting for the win. That would be insane, and then you wouldn't need to change anything. Also, Lando Norris agrees with Verstappen's recent comments that Formula One stick to Sunday races as the sprint events are not what a race should be about. The McLaren driver said, "Growing up, always having qualifyings and then a race. That's always what I've known Formula One to be, so in a way, I'm with Max on that. I love just to build up the pressure of just having qualifying and one race with nothing coming between. That's just the structure of it." But having said that, the Briton conceded that the nature of the circuit also determines the impact of a sprint race. He added, "At the correct tracks, I also don't mind it. So when it was in Austria or Monza, tracks you can actually race on. Interlagos, reasonably, not the easiest track for most people to race on." When Verstappen's teammate Sergio Perez was asked about his thoughts on the sprint race format, he didn't hold back. In his blunt assessment, he called the format very boring and questioned its benefit to the sport. Perez said, "I don't see the benefit of having the sprint race. There's nothing happening in it, and I can imagine it's also boring for fans and drivers. It doesn't bring anything, to be honest." Perez went on to express his disappointment with the current format, stating that he didn't feel it brought anything to the table. However, he acknowledged that the sprint race was introduced to improve the show, and that it would ultimately be up to the fans to decide if it was a success. Meanwhile, this opinion appears to be largely at odds with those of his fellow drivers and certainty with the sport's chief executive Stefano Domenicali, who is not a fan of free practice sessions. Mercedes' George Russell, who is a director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, said he liked the idea of getting into the action earlier in the weekend. The British driver said, "I wasn't in favor of sprint races initially, but I really enjoyed the sprint races, and having action on a Friday is vital for all of us, and also for the entertainment factor." Russell's teammate Lewis Hamilton agreed, saying it was important for the sport to keep evolving. Scuderia Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Haas driver Kevin Magnussen also do not share the same opinion with Verstappen. Charles Leclerc said, "Yeah, I like Friday, especially because normally it's a bit of a boring Friday on normal race weekends. You've got FP1, FP2, and you do many laps for not much. But now on sprint weekends, you need to be straight away on it in FP1, and then you've got qualifying straight away, so that I enjoy." Danish driver Kevin Magnussen agreed with Charles Leclerc and said that the sprint race weekends are, in fact, better than the usual format with 2 free practice sessions on Friday, which have no real value for most of the fans. What's your thoughts about this? Will Verstappen really leave F1 if sprint races are increased? Let us know in the comments section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notifications bell so that you can always get to watch more videos like this. See you in the next video.